Okay. So, I don't know. We can't start this like Darian does. Have we started? All right. Because we're just going to keep talking then. All right.
Yeah, we don't have Darian here, so we can't do the crazy bombast intro.
No, we can't.
But we can tell people what they're listening to.
This is Thinking Liberty. And if you don't know me, then I'm Tennyson. There's Bile over there. Bile, you even have a mic? He's saying...
Yeah, I have a mic.
There, he has a mic over there. We've got Bosco over here on the side of me. Say hello,
Hello.
Bosco. All right, so we're good. Darian is off doing what it is that ever he does. I don't really know what that is. He might be doing nothing, quite honestly. I don't track him often enough.
Often enough. We don't listen to the mics we have hidden in his apartment that much.
It's like, I turned on the Agora IO camera thing, and it's still on. So we're looking into his apartment constantly.
Constantly. You should tell people what channel that is.
They can find it because, something I heard was that the people who are on Agora IO, they didn't get their addresses taken off. So, somebody who was in charge of Agora IO not demanded, but strongly requested and would have probably refused to let them on if they hadn't revealed their locations. And now they can't get them off.
That's good to know.
Good to know. Good to know.
So anyway, you're listening to Thinking Liberty. The website is thinkingliberty.net.
Thinkingliberty.net.
And this is a special pre-recorded edition that we are doing because of technical fun times here at the Thinking Liberty bunker.
Yeah,
Technically, we are streaming, but I don't think anyone's going to listen because we're way past our normal starting time.
That's okay.
Yeah, we quite literally had the installer recently leave the area we're at to try to get the networking, and then it wasn't working right.
It wasn't working right. No, so we had this whole.
It's still not working right.
Yeah, it's false advertising is what we're dealing with.
That's kind of what's going on. So before, Bile used his magical witch doctor jungle powers in order to conjure up some sort of connection that I was using, and I don't know how to do that at all. But I just got to bow down to his amazing technical connectivity
Technical
skills.
Magic.
Yes. This is technical juju there. So we have this much tech juju, and he has that much tech juju. I'm putting my hand higher here to indicate how much higher it is. But that's where
And
it
the
is.
moral of the story is use WPA.
Yes, because you're web crackers out there. When I was at the apartment in Manhattan, because I used to live in this little apartment. There's a whole bunch of little wireless things all around there. I noticed that everybody was using WPA or they're using nothing. So it's like I'm trying to find web anywhere that I can crack, and it's like, okay, I find a web, and then I realized that I don't have this thing to actually drive a bunch of data into it. So I can And I was like, crap. I'd have to buy an extra thing in order to even get a little bit more, so I decided to just not bother. And I found somebody who had an open thing, and it was terrible. I was hovering next to the corner of the apartment the entire time, trying to eke out a particle of a kilobyte. And it's like...
That's when you go to Deal Extreme and you buy one of those high-powered directional antennas.
Yeah. See,
a nice Cantenna style.
If I could connect to Deal Extreme...
Yeah, the funny thing is, for those of you that don't know much about web cracking, it strikes me as the kind of thing that we're going to tell our grandkids about and be like, back in the day, before we had the quantum crack, we had the
fancy quantum entanglements.
But what you have to do is you needed a certain amount of web traffic, or not web traffic, you needed a certain amount of traffic between clients and the router in order for you to have enough that you could attack it and you could crack it. So it used to be that you just sit around and wait. And I remember spending days just sitting there with some laptop hooked up, begging that these particular neighbors would use the internet some more. And so that's the way it used to be. And then what they found out is that there's a way you can generate what they call interesting packets just by replaying certain information that you see on the network. So you can use Air Replay or something like that, and you can cause interesting data to be generated, and then you can crack it a whole heck of a lot faster. So that's good to know. For those of you who have never cracked WEP, that's good to know. Yeah. Another good thing to know would be what I was talking to Bile about before. The old FiOS routers, the WEP password was based on the SSID that they broadcast.
Oh yeah.
So
in
yeah,
fact,
you could just figure
I
it
think
out.
It still is. I mean,
no, it's changed.
I went to a FiOS, a couple of FiOS houses just in the last week or so, and it's still the same.
But I mean, right here, it's changed.
Oh, right
where,
here.
Where
I
I live, it's the same.
Yeah.
Right here, it's different. I wasn't able to use that, which is good to know.
Here, I'm gonna start my scan right here to see what's in the area.
You're gonna screw things up. That's what you're gonna
know.
do. Stuff's gonna go down terribly. The one dude who's listening on our super bootleg stream is gonna be like, "What the heck happened?"
We don't even have one yet.
Oh, we don't even have one, dude.
I broadcast it on Twitter and Facebook, but I don't think anyone's paying attention.
I understand.
They don't trust us anymore.
I feel your pain. It will go up as a exclusive podcast. We're probably also going to shorten today's format because we started a little bit late.
And we're kind of hungry as well. So
Yeah, and Bile hasn't eaten anything in a day.
yeah, he
So
needs somebody to feed him.
yeah, we're worried he's going to pass out.
That's not actually all that uncommon, but
Well, soon it's going to be IV time.
perhaps maybe another day.
Liquid diets for real. So,
Oh boy.
so what are we even talking about today, anyway?
Oh, what's interesting that's happening? I hear on Friday they may shut down all all non-essential services that the government provides.
Oh yeah. I saw that the shutdown of the Senate or something or other was happening, and well, we'll see what happens.
You know what's awesome about that? If it goes down on Saturday, I'm supposed to be leading a litter cleanup
Oh,
in a national park,
okay.
which would be fantastic.
So you can explain to them, like, hey,
no,
services.
I will explain squat to them. I will bring bolt cutters, and I will be like, we are going to clean our park.
Our park.
Our park.
Yes,
Yes.
this is ours now. So let
we
them
have
try.
homesteaded this.
Let them try and stop us. Can they pay their officers to stop us? I don't know.
Oh, that's an essential service.
It's-
Cracking me in the head with a baton, that's essential. God forbid we go without that for a moment, you know.
It's like you're not a peaceful person, you know. So
That's like the I was looking at the funding proposals they've got going back and forth, and the stopgap funding measure that they proposed they thought was so terribly reasonable. They're like, all right, we're gonna cut. What was it $12 billion worth of stuff? You know, like drop in the bucket. They're like, but we'll fully fund the military for a year because you know, obviously we need to do that.
a drop in a bucket there. So I was recommending that everyone should simply bribe Congress and the Senate and anybody else they need to with $10 million a year. That's what you got to do. $10 million a year for all 537 or whoever the hell knows. 500 and so, all these people. $10 million each, and it'll be less than half of 1% of the actual amount that they had in revenue. So, I would just demand that they simply repeal laws and leave us alone. $10 million, take it, please. It's in your pocket. You don't have to worry about any of this campaign crap anymore.
It could be 10 times that.
It could be, and it would still be awesome.
See, but you got to
100
understand.
million a piece. That's fine. I mean,
That would
still be less.
Yeah, that would be. It'd still be 95% less than the amount that they've taken already.
It's not just the senators that are on the dole, though. You know, you've got
it's
the
every
banks
congressman
and the contractors
Yeah,
and everybody else who's getting paid.
I mean, if you could, tell any of them, I don't even know the names of any congressmen anymore, except for Ron Paul. But yeah, whoever any congressmen are, just tell him. Listen, let's go
Michelle
back-
Bachmann.
Michelle Bachmann. Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, come on. Let's go over here. Let's get over here. Come on. All right. I'll give you $10 million. $10 million. It's like a lottery winning. Come on. It's you don't even have to put numbers in. It's that easy. $10 million to do nothing. Nothing. It's a do-nothing job, sweet cheeks. And so that would be it. If you could convince all of them, go find your congresspeople and tell them this. If they take the deal, then I think we're going to be better off.
You know, it's funny. I've been listening to a lot of NPR, and you hear the same stuff drummed into your head over and over. And one of the things they're saying is, it doesn't matter if they're talking to a Democrat or a Republican. They'll say, "Well, we're reaching this crisis level, and nobody wants to not fund the government. That's just not feasible." And I'm always sitting there in my car yelling at the radio, banging on the steering wheel, saying, "I want to not fund the government." I really just need to call and just say, for the record, there's at least one person, right? And that would be me. It's like, no, please, let's not fund it.
I'd be like, we kind of lost this caller here. Feel free to call back. We'll put you at the top of the queue again. And moving on, Walla Walla, Washington.
Feel free to call back. Oh, no, we don't have the federal funding to take your call.
Oh,
I'm so sorry.
did you see the Onion piece there? It's like Republicans solve all budgetary crisis by defunding NPR.
Yeah, I love that. You're looking at such minimal things. Oh. I mean, the big stuff is defense spending, Medicaid, Medicare.
Yeah, this
That's what it comes down to.
if you could really get a handle on that discretionary spending, not because it's discretionary spending is bigger than anything else now, then I think that they'd be able to last a little bit longer before the hyperinflation happens, and who knows? But maybe they'll get to the point where it's starting to get really bad hyperinflation, pay off a bunch of people in nominal dollars, and then try and cut the stuff out.
Okay, so is this the we should just go ahead and push it to the limit? And
That's I'm pretty sure
throw it down the stairs?
somebody in DC is thinking about that right now. They're going to say like, okay, the dollar isn't going to be worth as much, and like we kind of owe $1 billion over here, but then again, $1 billion is going to be able to just buy a car. So here, now you have $1 billion and you are fully paid out. We no longer have to bother with these pensioners because well, who cares? There's $1 billion. I'll just print it for you. There you go. It's not going to come back. If it comes back to us, we'll have all the goods already, and we'll have flown off to some other seastead somewhere, and that'll be it.
This is why Tennyson likes to do all his transactions in toilet paper. He just has rolls and rolls and rolls of it on his person at all times.
It has a lot of uses there. Was that in the bag that I had at PorkFest?
No, the bag that you had for the record at PorkFest had DVDs,
Yeah.
lotion, and tissues.
Yeah.
That's what you left in my van. You left a bag with DVDs, lotion, and tissues.
I think there was some cocoa butter in there. Yeah, so there was some good reasons for all those things.
Oh,
I have to come
man.
up with them, though. Yeah, this is going to be an amazing PorkFest this year, though. So.
Oh, yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
It seems to be a lot going on. You see it on Facebook, stuff like
Yeah.
that. People are getting ready.
People are getting ready, and there's some insanity going on during the planning stages. It looks like someone's trying to plan a giant rave with not Free Staters, but just with anybody who will show up from that area. They're going to flyer the entire area, and who knows, I don't know. Maybe there'll be police interested that there's going to be a huge rave that's planned over there. And who knows what they might find at PorkFest if police decide to raid the place. But, hey, I'm not planning PorkFest.
That's a very it's a big downer of some news there.
Yeah.
Honestly, when it comes to PorkFest for me lately, I've just been spending my time like sleeping and kind of hanging out with the dog. I'm usually so tired by the time PorkFest rolls around. Like partying is not high on my list of things to do.
Yeah.
So much
yeah,
anymore.
I just got to go there and shoot everybody with a camera. Yeah. With
boy.
a camera, and it's usually a very good time for me. It's just great hanging out with all those people. I want Anthony Gregory to come to PorkFest
That'd be
this
nice.
year. So I talked to him while I was out west, and I said, you really got to come to PorkFest. And he's like, I don't know, in the way that Anthony Gregory says his things. And he's like, it's a bit of a schlep to get over there, but he wouldn't say that. I just said that. But if we chip in, we could probably just buy him a one-way ticket to New Hampshire, and
One-way ticket. Now you're here.
He'll figure something out later.
I think if we got him to PorkFest, we would definitely have to have a live debate about the importance of FDR's presidency. I think that's what needs to happen.
Oh, we're gonna have an actual debate at PorkFest this year. So Roderick is gonna be there.
Yeah, I heard that sounds good.
So I wanted Roderick to come for Liberty Forum, but then Liberty Forum didn't make it. But he's gonna be there in New Hampshire finally during good weather, and he used to live in New Hampshire, by the way. Went to school there, and he's going to be debating intellectual property with logo rights guy JNS. Hey, real cool man. Me and J. Neil Schulman. So we'll see how that goes.
It looks like it'll be a good debate.
Yeah.
Both sides feel strongly about what they're talking about,
Yep.
and they have points,
They do.
and that's what it takes for a debate.
That's what it takes to win. You have the most points, and then I mean, J. Neil Schulman, I think, is probably. I don't really know what his counter argument is to any of the people who've replied to him on the logo rights or any intellectual property stuff, but
You're gonna
he's
find out.
going to have to come up with something, and I'm pretty sure the crowd will be against him. But
That's fine.
That's fine. He just has to go out there and make some points.
Defend yourself in the marketplace of ideas.
Yes.
And, who knows? Maybe he will change people's minds.
Yes, maybe he will.
I don't know. People honestly usually don't enter into a debate with any intention of ever changing their mind. It's usually people start set a certain way.
Yeah, a public debate is just a show. It's a show. It's not there for changing the other debater's mind. It's just there to entertain the audience, and then you try and win. So you make, enough rhetorical flourishes and points, and you get the audience on your side, and and then enough for that, then people will think, hey, yeah, you won the debate, even if I don't agree with you. And I've seen that happen before.
No, I can agree with that. Seems to make a lot of sense.
Yes.
All right, so what else we got going on?
Not in politics, though.
Oh, you know what we should probably talk about, since we were talking about it earlier, is some cool nanotechnology stuff.
Nanotechnology. I can't talk about that stuff without going too long.
Without going too long. I think you can do it.
All right.
There's been some particularly amazing stuff.
There has been some very amazing stuff today. I don't know if anybody else out there has actually signed up with the Foresight Institute. They send out this newsletter every month, and they have a big collection of just fancy stories that have happened throughout that month. And I'll just read some of the headlines here. And maybe if you know anything about nanotechnology, you'll know what I'm talking about when I say some of the headlines. Like first is bottom up as a next step within top down. So like people have been thinking, how exactly can we get to nanotechnology?
Sounds like a really strange porno title.
It does. It's going to be. That's more like faces down, bottoms up. I don't know. No, I'm not going to say it in the way that I would say it because I can't.
That's the way we like to have fun.
Yes, this is. We're constrained by the FCC, and who knows what those letters stand for. But the bottom-up method of nanotechnology is actually starting with things on the nanoscale and using that to construct molecular machinery. And the top-down method is to start with larger machines and then build smaller machines from the large machines and continue building further down scale.
So you use your pair of vice grips to make small vice grips.
Exactly.
And the small vice grips to make really small vice
Exactly.
grips.
So you use a lathe, and then you build a smaller lathe with the lathe, and then you build a smaller lathe with the lathe with the lathe. And so Exhibit comes out, and he's going to say, yo, dog, I heard you like your lathe, so your small lathe. So I built you a small lathe with a small lathe, so you could lathe while you lathe. Small. Yeah.
It's a good way to get lathed. There's... what they really need is they need like nano duct tape and nano WD-40, and then they're done. You can make everything, right? Then you win.
And that's how we win. Winning. Charlie Sheen bombed out there, and that was too bad. He was really high that time, I think.
Yeah, that's a problem. I heard that his Broadway show not so good.
Yeah, he's not out here yet. He's got a show coming. I think.
I heard he couldn't sell tickets or something like that.
I don't know if he's sold out yet, but they went to Detroit. That was the first show, the opening of the tour, and that's when all the problems happened. So
that's when all the problems happened.
Yes.
I would say the problems precipitated the show, to be honest with you.
Well, the show's a great thing. But anyway, continuing with the nanotechnology, the top-down method, like I was talking about, building smaller and smaller devices with your larger devices, that's actually called the Feynman path. So Richard Feynman, anybody out there, hands up who knows Richard Feynman. There we go. So half the class gets a cookie today. So Richard Feynman had this talk a long time ago. It was the 50th anniversary of the talk just last year. And what he said was what they could do is build a tiny machine and then have that micro machine build, with a whole set of tools, micro tools, build a smaller set of tools and things like that. So somebody, about 2 years after he gave the speech, actually did what he proposed in the speech, building.
Surely he was joking.
Surely Mr. Feynman was joking. He was not joking. And you could tell by his face and his bongo drums he was not joking that day. And he won the prize money, so that's how it was. And the idea was to write down a page of the encyclopedia or something on the head of a pin. That was another challenge, and so someone did that. And then eventually the ability to write down the entire Encyclopedia Britannica on the head of a pin, because he gives exactly how it could be done. This is how small a letter is, this is how big a page is, this is how many letters is, this is how much area there is on the head of a pin, and all that. And this is how you could do it. And he was able to come up with this whole thing, but he didn't come up with a bottom-up path.
Who was that guy that was so famous for arguing how many angels could dance on the head of a pin?
Thomas Aquinas?
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, but there's a bunch of the Middle Ages guys who did that. And then Roderick would actually come up and correct us and say, no, they didn't actually have those debates. It's just a
Folklore?
It was a modern characterization of the Picayune type of debates that they would have back in the day about complete nonsense. And it was a philosophical debate about, intangibilities and spiritualities and immaterial, and how the material affects the immaterial, and like the pineal gland thing that somebody eventually came up with to say, okay, this is how the soul actually connects to the body through the gland, and that's just how it works.
Moving on to the more tangible.
Yeah, so the bottom-up path is actually on its way. People are really working towards a bottom-up path, and this was Drexler's innovation. But continuing with the headlines, more efficient protein folding program, advanced nanotechnology. This is something that I've been thinking about a lot personally. Looking at the entire folding at home thing and figuring out how these things actually interact with one another when they change shape and how they work in 3 dimensions. And from that, you can really get very, very good DNA origami stuff going. So, you've seen DNA origami?
I have not seen DNA origami.
Okay, DNA origami. It was on the cover of Scientific American. It was a picture of a smiley face that was just made out of DNA.
Cool.
Yeah, so they found a way to change, program the protein inside the DNA to change and fold up in such a way that it made this shape. And so they have really good direct control over the positioning of the DNA. And so they can make pretty much any shape.
That's pretty darn impressive, because that's
Yeah.
a crazy hard problem.
Yeah. Arbitrary folding of proteins to make shapes and things. So you can make a cube, you can make a pyramid. Or you
How
can make
big
a
are we
face.
talking?
No, on
DNA is pretty darn huge.
It's small. Well, small on human scale. It's very small. So I'll have to find a scale thing and see how many proteins are involved and how long they are in terms of a chain. But anywhere, you just look up DNA origami and you will find an image of this stuff.
Cool.
So with the pretty precise folding of this stuff, what you could do is create nanoscopic parts, and you could fold the DNA in such a way that it actually comes together and it creates a machine. And so you can create a simple machine, a pulley, a lever, or whatever it is, and then you could continue from that point to build more complicated machines or put them together in such a way to make more complicated machines. But using the DNA origami to move the things in the shape and paths that you want it to use. And it's a slow-going process, but they're building on the stuff that they have so far. And that, I think, is going to work out as a path towards slow nanotechnology, slowly doing it. Other people want a real quick diamondoid mechanosynthesis way, and okay, well, that's a direct way of doing it, but that's going to be really hard to do, too. So,
Was that the one where they're talking about, like, a tool that basically allows you to put
yes.
this molecule here, this molecule there?
Yeah. So that's, you can use a atomic force microscope tip, and you could actually, or different tips, because they react differently with different molecules,
Right.
and place them where they need to be placed and how they want to be placed and all that. But the diamondoid way is starting with a dimer, so using a small section of carbon and building up from there until you can actually create a carbanoid machine. Now, it'll be probably millions of atoms made any kind of useful machine there is. So I can't imagine how long that's going to take if they're using a simple one drop kind of method. But once you've made the thing, you can make other things, and it'll be faster and faster as it goes on.
Cool.
Yeah.
Assuming the first thing you make works.
Exactly. So let's hope it works. And speaking of that kind of mechanosynthesis, they actually have a video here. If you just go to the Foresight Institute, go to Nanodot, you'll find the video that they've put up here. Somebody has actually got mechanical manipulation of silicon dimers and silicon surface. It's pretty impressive. So I'll just tell you that. All right.
Astounding.
I'm talked out.
You're talked out. Well,
Yeah.
say the really cool one.
Which one? There's a lot of
The
cool
one,
ones.
the surface that
the
destroys. The surface that destroys. Period.
Okay.
This one was very impressive to me.
Over at Kurzweil, Ray Kurzweil, the author of The Singularity is Near, and a bunch of other books, he runs a website called Kurzweil AI, and this was one of the top news stories for a while. It was IBM nanoparticles can destroy drug-resistant bacteria. Actually destroy these things. So drug-resistant bacteria is a huge problem, and it could be a looming problem for anybody who's concerned about the efficacy of antibiotics and things like that. So if people keep continuously using azithromycin or whatever it is, then it'll kill off everything that's susceptible to azithromycin. But the things that do survive will tend to
Be
pass
naturally
on.
selected for.
Oh my gosh, evolution!
The flying spaghetti monster is displeased right now.
But it kind of does happen. Look, it's microevolution, so compromise, there it goes. Yeah. And it's actually happening. They become drug resistant to these antibiotics. And if you have to try and beat them with the stuff that you've got, you're not going to win. You'd have to come up with an entirely new set of antibiotics, and that's just going to be terrible. So what they've done is they've come up with these nanoscale delivery systems that can deliver drugs or things like that, and they get into any parts that you have that are infected. They won't bother your red blood cells. They won't bother your normal cells. They're specifically attracted to the bacterial walls. They can puncture the bacterial wall in. This is an entirely different way of doing medicine, because usually they do, they tag it.
Much cooler way.
This is a much cooler way.
Puncturing. And...
I know, it's like you're actually getting a robot to do your health work for you instead of using your body or tricking something else to get your body to do it.
At the cellular level,
yeah. It's like, oh my gosh, it's really doing it. So it goes in and it punctures the thing and just destroys it.
You ever seen the movie Inner Space?
I did.
There you go.
Think Inner Space, except that they don't have to, blow up at the end and somehow leave a ship that didn't, blow up. There's
some inconsistencies in Inner Space.
Yeah, it's like shouldn't they?
Yeah. So what's the news on that as far as nanotechnology? Starting with something big, then inventing a shrink ray and shrinking it down.
Well, yeah, in kind of that way, they did do that. So just as IBM has started with larger chips and continued making smaller chips in their progress towards fast and affordable, I guess, chips and things like that, they have used that same technology to make these things on the nanoscale. So starting with big and going to small. So yeah, this is a way that the top-down method is producing some effective results, but it's not going to give us, at least I don't think so, it's not going to give us Drexlerian nanotechnology.
That's still pretty cool, though. I mean,
it's
the way
very cool.
The article describes it's this metal surface that was covered in these things that when that metal surface had the bacteria put on it, the bacteria was destroyed.
Yeah.
Period.
Yep.
It's like, wow, that's impressive.
So, give it about 10 more years and this stuff might actually be, able to be put right into your body and kill that drug-resistant bacteria that probably evolved to take over the territory that the drug-susceptible bacteria used to hold. So,
good to know.
Good
and
luck.
Science marches on.
And science marches on. Glory, glory, science.
All glory to science.
Science H, damn it. Science H logic. What are you talking about?
Oh, good stuff.
Yeah. Oh, man. So are we going to go to break? Did we do a break?
We could do a break.
Yeah, let's go to break. Yeah.
I don't have anything set up for a break.
All right. How about we just walk away and then edit a break in later?
Well, I can play there's people listening now. So.
Oh, there's people listening?
Yes.
For what? Wow. We could improv a break.
Thank you. Okay. How about
or I could just play our commercials.
That's good.
I'll play a couple of those.
Oh, God.
Right.
Do you want to be free?
Do you know the meaning of the term liquidity? Do you wear a cool suit and manage a big bank? Do you have a buttload more money than the common schmuck? Well, then why are you still getting normal loans like an average Joe? Here at the United States Federal Reserve Bank, we will loan you all the money you need at a practically non-existent interest rate. And don't worry about us running out of money. We'll just print more. We make banking so easy that any idiot can make money at it. And believe me, many idiots already are. So why don't you get in on this scheme today? The Federal Reserve Bank, making the rich richer and forcing the poor to buy wheelbarrows to transport their currency. Loan money may devalue all currency, may cause boom and bust cycle, occasionally massive cash injections required from Washington.
Sometimes you just can't put enough fear into people to get them to do what you want. That's where we come in. At Public Information Services, we specialize in scaring the public. We will find photogenic victims for you, even create them if necessary. Then we sell the fear to you cheap, so you can use it to crack down on those pesky freedoms. Whether it's skateboards, handguns, or Mexicans, piss has your ban.
You wouldn't steal a car. you wouldn't steal a handbag. And you definitely wouldn't take an orphan's gold teeth. So why do you insist on stealing people's mind fruit? Every time you implement something somebody has already thought of, you're stealing mind fruit. Every time you think of something that somebody's already thought of, you're stealing even more mind fruit. So please, check all your thoughts with the Department of Thoughts, and everything you create with the Department of Inventions, so we can help prevent this most egregious theft of a highly tangible item, mind fruit.
Do you want to be free? I mean, really free. American free. Well, my friend, freedom isn't free. We here at the military-industrial complex know just how much it costs to supply the government with all the people-killing power it needs to spread peace and freedom. Sure, we may make a ton of money off of slaughtering other people, but isn't that the real cost of freedom?
But for the cost of one stealth bomber, we could send 150,000 Afghan children to private school. Surely our money could be better spent helping people than sawing them in half with gunfire. You're exploring the...
Pipe down, hippie. That's un-American. Everybody knows that the best way to ensure peace is to develop new ways to kill people, and if we should happen to turn a massive profit off of state-sanctioned murder, then all the better. So support your local war profiteer, and remember, these bombs are for freedom.
And you are back. You're listening to Thinking Liberty. ThinkingLiberty.net, your anarcho-bombast podcast. Sans bombast right now.
Say it with some more bombast.
Anarcho-bombast podcast. Every time I say that, I feel like I should say anarcho.
Anarcho.
Anarcho. Anarchists who are really into nachos.
All right, so we have our ways of getting to us. We have contact at thinkingliberty.net. On Twitter, you can look for Think N Liberty. For Facebook, just search for Thinking Liberty fan page and go to Free Agents, FR33 Agents, Thinking Liberty group. Skype, you can get us on Thinking Liberty. You can probably just look for Thinking Liberty.
You can email us.
You could. I already said the email.
Sorry.
You weren't listening. See, the phone is 919-88.
No-gov.
And that's right, 919-88-NO-GOV or 919-886-6468. So, and also you can find us on AOL keyword Thinking Liberty.
There you go.
But they can't call right now because it's not set up.
Exactly.
There you go.
So, but just listen to the number, memorize it for next time, and then maybe,
you could leave
unleash
us
that
a
memory.
really cool voicemail message.
That would be cool.
When the police are like knocking your head in for protesting invasions into foreign countries or something.
Yeah, we could get a really cool transcript. That would be totally insane.
Oh, I got a fantastic transcript from Bile today when he called me. I was trying to make out what he was trying to tell me based on it.
Okay.
It was talking about, like, it was one of those transcripts where it's like a lot of single words followed by periods.
Yeah.
So it's like, nice, period. Almost, period. Championship, period. I'm like, what? What is he talking about? Nice, almost championship?
Nice, almost championship.
Yep.
One time I had somebody leaving a phone number, and it almost always gets numbers perfectly right. So it gets phone numbers totally right. This time it got numbers so wrong. Like the guy was saying the number, but he was saying it in such a way that the computer interpreted it as him saying in the middle of everyone. So it was like 9 1 7 and it wrote that out. I was like, what the hell is it doing? Why can't you just pick out a number? And eventually, it's gonna get good. It's gonna be real good. So
It's good enough for like general use, I think, for a lot of stuff.
It is. I mean, I want it to be as good as a human being, or as good as a simple human being, soon.
Fair enough.
Give it 4 years. No, 3 years, and then if not, I'm going to be mad after 3 years. So
You're going to get very angry after 3 years.
Exactly. I'm going to count to 3 years.
In seconds. 1, 2, in
stop.
slow seconds.
In slow seconds. 2.5.
Oh, boy. All right, so we haven't had you on the show for a while, Tennyson.
That's true.
What have you been up
But
to?
you'd hardly notice, honestly.
We totally noticed.
Oh gosh, it was good. No, I haven't been working, so what I did was, I took the time that I've been away from work as a bit of freedom. So I'm like, I may as well go travel for a bit. So, did DC for a couple of weekends, which was good. Did some Students for Liberty things, CPAC, which was nice.
Did you see the halls of government?
I did. I passed them right by. So we drove right by the SEC on the way to Union Station, and then I promptly ignored the rest of it. So,
Okay.
oh, I did see the Washington Monument and the reflecting pool and the Lincoln Memorial when I was in D.C. Drove right by it in a cab. Yeah, it was quite nice. It was like 73 degrees that day too. It was wonderful. It's a great thing to be in after you've gotten away from the New York winter for a bit, because it's been a rough winter in some places. It's been long. It's been dragging out.
You've also been spending a lot of time like in snow,
Yeah.
stranded at places this
Yep.
winter.
That was
Yeah, your winter's not so hot.
not
this
so hot.
year.
I mean, you had your own things. Well, that camping trip, and it was very cold wherever it was that you were.
Yeah, that was upstate New York. That was
Yeah.
Benson, New York.
Yeah. So
winter is cold.
winter was cold and long. In fact, it's still kind of here, and I'm underdressed for it. But I'm going to be okay
And can you tell people why winter is cold?
because of global warming.
No.
Oh,
Well, I mean, you could go that route if you want to talk about global warming.
yeah.
But is it because the Earth's orbit around the sun is extra eccentric? Is that why?
Could be, or maybe like the reflecting wizard kind of got in.
Wizard.
It got in the way. Instead of being on the other side of the planet, came to this side of the planet and reflected a bunch of sunlight away. And so now, that's why we have winter, kids.
Sounds like something out of like Adventure Time.
Yes.
No, that's
Adventure Time has been so awesome.
I bring that up because that's like a big misconception. A lot of people
think that we're farther away from the sun. And
yeah,
that's, well,
exactly. Where it's really it has to do with the
It's
axial
yeah.
tilt.
So we're at
of the
about a
Earth.
23.5-degree tilt on our axis, and that's why we wobble a little bit while we're spinning.
There
and
you
we
go.
have our seasons.
But we're pretty darn close to circular.
It's
around
pretty,
the
yeah,
sun.
yeah. We have a less eccentric orbit than say some other planets. Not as good as Venus, on the other hand. Venus is also weird, so you wouldn't want to go there. I don't trust her. So what we do after that is we consider what's it like on the opposite side of the world, where not only is it really, really close to the sun, but it's also tilted toward the sun. So I can imagine the summers there are even wilder, and the winters are even wilder in the other side of the world.
I guess that would make sense.
I haven't tested it yet, so eventually when I get to the other side
you
of
gotta
the
take
world,
a trip.
yeah, when I get to the other side of the
So
world, I will
while we're
find
talking
out.
about trips, where else did you go?
I also went to California. So beautiful, sunny, warm California, Hollywood Hills, Bel Air, Beverly Hills,
Homes.
and yes, it was great. I mean, it was very nice there. Uncle Phil was cool. Yeah.
Just like what you see on TV.
It was
exactly the same.
It's exactly like what you'd see on TV. It's a big gated community, and you could go in there, but you're going to be spotted if you stay there too long. And the Bel Air security people will talk about you into their shoulders and say like, and then they'll try and politely escort you out of there. I didn't find that out personally. I'm just hearing the stories. So I also went to the Getty Museum there. Oh my gosh,
What is that?
The Getty Museum is the big museum in Los Angeles. So it's one of the big museums, but it's like the biggest. So think of the big museums you'd have in New York, like the Met and the Natural History Museum, and maybe even the Fashion Museum that's down near Columbus Circle. This is the biggest museum I have ever been in, I think. It's like a theme park for museums. There's a little monorail in there that takes you from one place to another.
Wow.
It's open, and it's airy, and it's filled with marble and pools and waterfalls and statues, and it's
What's it about?
It is a dedication to classic Western art. So I didn't see any abstract art in there, but I didn't really look around so much because we got there late in the day and it was rainy. But it was still very beautiful. I'm sure on a clear day you could stop and stand in the eating area of the Getty Museum and look all the way to the ocean, and it would be really nice.
Cool. Good to know. Did you China just recently unveiled the world's largest museum, too.
Really?
They built a museum larger than the Met by like 20,000 square feet or some other
Wow, was it?
obscenely huge number.
Yeah, where's it? What's it going to be about? Chinese history?
It's about
Chinese superiority?
It's about I think they have all kinds of art in there basically, but
Okay.
the reports I was hearing is people were saying they viewed it as kind of an answer to Western art, which seems sort of
Fine.
weird.
Hey, compete. I mean, that's what we're all about, right? You're now competing. So.
Yeah, but the thing is, if you compete, you've kind of conceded that you may possibly
Exactly.
feel a little inferior,
Yeah.
or something like that, which seems to be the impression people were getting.
Well, if you make it bigger, you're not necessarily saying something. So this is why we make the tallest buildings and the biggest planes and drive the biggest cars. We're not saying anything about ourselves. Just kind of we have
Just like things big.
we just like it bigger. Okay, gosh.
Oh God.
Yeah, and so they have built an enormous museum, and that's how it is in California. The Getty Museum, of course, is built by the Getty family, and it's a big oil family. So this is what oil money can build. It's pretty damn amazing. So if you're in Los Angeles, go check out the Getty Museum. Take a bus, take a train, go out there. Usually drive, because that's pretty much what everyone in Los Angeles does. It's a driving city. Also, I from Los Angeles went up to the Bay Area. So,
Okay.
yeah, visited our friend Anthony Gregory. So, hung out with him for a little
Did you
bit.
get to see San Francisco?
I did. I got to see San Francisco because I've never been up that way. When I go to California, usually I've stayed. Well, I've only been there one time before, so this is the second time ever. So I'm going to say, with high frequency, I've spent most of my time in Los Angeles, and this time I wandered out a bit.
Did you get to go over the Golden Gate Bridge?
I did not get to go over the Golden Gate
Did you
Bridge.
get to go over the Bay Bridge?
I did go over the Bay Bridge. Yes.
That's unfortunate.
I know.
Of the two bridges, you picked the wrong one.
Well, it was the one that I could get. So it's like,
It's the one that's long, flat, boring, and takes you to Oakland.
yeah. It was like, but Oakland was cool. So I drove around Oakland, drove around Berkeley, being lost. And on the way back from San Francisco, and in San Francisco, I had to pay a toll, which I didn't actually pay.
How'd you get away with that?
Well, it was in a rental vehicle at the time, and I was saying, like, I don't have any cash on me. I was like, what am I going to do? And he says, no, I got my card. And so he's like, well, we don't take cards, because apparently that's not legitimate money in the United States. And so he gave me this piece of paper that said, okay, here, this is what you owe now. And it was $25 or something.
Oh, okay,
It was absurd.
They do the same thing here in Jersey.
Yeah.
You can't pay. They give you the piece of paper, and then you mail the paper in with your money and all
Yeah.
that sort of
Well,
stuff.
why is it so much more than the actual toll?
Well, here it's the actual toll.
See, this is a reasonable place. I've come back to civilization to find these things.
I don't know if this is a reasonable place.
Yes, it is. It's a very nice place here. I mean, I'm looking out the window right now, and I'm looking at a very nice bridge. And what bridge is that anyway?
GWB.
That is the GWB.
That costs what, like $8 to go over now?
Yes, it does.
$8 to go out of, nothing to come back in.
Yeah, it's because who wants to come back?
It's free to come into Jersey.
Yeah.
It costs money to leave.
Yes, it's Hotel California.
You can check out, but you'll never leave. So,
Because I'm not
then-
paying.
Did you? So then you flew from California back here?
Yeah, I flew back from California to here, but in the Bay Area, I was there originally to go to the Voluntarius meetup, which I totally missed because I was driving from Los Angeles that morning and I'd started out late, and then I just went and hung out with Anthony Gregory, and Anthony is an amazing chef.
Really?
I had no idea that he was just so much of an accomplished chef.
What did you eat?
First he made his fried chicken. And it's like, oh, well, fried chicken. It's like, fried chicken is his sort of specialty dish. He takes about 12 to 14 hours making this fried chicken.
Fried chicken.
Yes.
12 to 14 hours.
Yeah, so he's saturating this chicken in his own homemade brine type of thing.
11 herbs and spices.
He's got several herbs and spices. It's just, it is an event eating anything there at Anthony. So then we went out shopping like the next day. He's going to make his Asian dish. So he's making this Mongolian beef. That's what he made.
Ooh.
Yeah, and it was, oh my gosh. So I want him to come to PorkFest
And compete in
then
the one-pot
compete
cook-off.
in the one-pot cook-off.
Yes.
Yes. Where there may or may not be pot involved.
I was. What was one of the things 2 years ago? This guy was serving "quote unquote" legal hash.
Yeah.
Was what he called it.
Oh,
And
that's stuff that you can find on the internet?
no. It wasn't any of that. It was actually
right.
just hash.
All right.
And this guy kept asking him. He's like, "So for the record, there's no hallucinogens in it." And the guy's like, "No, it's just a funny name." And the guy who was gonna eat is like, "I want to be really clear though. There's no hallucinogens in this." And he's like, yes, there's no hallucinogens in it. It's like, you're at an interesting venue when you have to ask that question like 2 or 3 times to be sure.
And were there any hallucinogens?
No, there was no hallucinogens.
Oh,
It was really
okay.
good hash though.
Really good hash is pretty good. So I don't know because I have no idea what that's even like. But I'm going to take your word for it.
Salty
Okay,
and delicious.
whatever that means. Yeah. Oh gosh. But that whole drive from Los Angeles to the Bay Area
This
is
is like what, 3 hours, 4 hours?
it's 5 hours. So
Ooh, okay.
yeah. And it's just a really beautiful drive there. So you go from the city to this really congested highways to an open flat plain to mountains with snow and ice on them to a place that's basically a desert, and then to farms, some of the biggest farms I've ever seen, more cows than I've ever seen one place I saw right there in California. So cows and sheep and all the other regular barn animals there. Lots of farmers put up signs on the side of the road saying, "Stop the Congress-created drought." Or they're saying, "Let's keep our water," or crops grow where water goes. Apparently they are getting a water subsidy, and they want to make sure that they can keep that subsidy. So they're going to appeal to you, the driver, stop Congress from doing this.
Well, that whole center area of California is naturally a desert, right?
Exactly. So you've built a farm on a desert, and this has been your livelihood. So, well, there's some really good-looking things there. So vineyards that are passed by.
You know what impressed me
oranges,
was
apples.
when I saw the Sierra Nevada mountains. For
Sierra
the first
Nevada,
time.
yeah,
Because I've crossed the Rockies on both sides.
on foot.
And the Canadian, not on foot, the Canadian Rockies too. And nothing, nothing compares to how sweet those particular mountains look. They just shoot up out of the ground. I mean, the White Mountains in New Hampshire don't compare. It's impressive.
Yeah. Oh gosh. So if you're going to be if you're going to try and get from Los Angeles to the Bay Area, I recommend the drive. You can really relax on the road there. You can drive over 100 miles an hour on the road. It's totally fine. No one cares. The speed limit there was 75, 80 miles an hour. That's just whatever.
I tried driving from Santa Clara to what's the name of the town that the Hoover Dam is in?
Beats me. I have to look
Okay.
it up.
Well, anyway, I tried doing the drive that one time when I was living in California, and I got, I'd say, maybe about 3 hours in,
Yeah.
and I got pulled over by a cop, and the cop's like, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" And I'm like, there's no good answer to that question. And the cop was like, "Well, you have no running lights." I'm like,
Running lights?
seriously? I have no running lights, like, whatsoever? He's like, yeah, it's weird. There must be a fuse out or something. So I was like, oh, okay. Well, can I check my fuse panel? And he's like, yeah. So he actually sat there, and I checked the fuse panel in the car. Fuses were all fine. I looked at the back of the car, confirmed there was no running lights. Looked at it, I'd say, for maybe like 15 minutes. And then I was like, yeah, I can't figure out what it is. And he's like, well, where are you going? I was like, I want to go see the Hoover Dam. And he's like, and where are you coming from? I'm like, I'm coming from Santa Clara.
Okay.
So he was like, yeah, you got a ways to go, and it's mostly desert road, and there's nothing on it, and it's the middle of the night. He's like, you should probably turn your hazards on and go back to Santa Clara. Didn't give me a ticket or
Nope.
anything like that.
Yeah.
Put the hazards on, went back to Santa Clara, and figured out what it was the weekend after that.
Wow.
So, yeah.
It's regular interactions with the police.
Yeah, I know. It was very kind of strange. It was like, he's here on this desert road. He's got nothing else to do. Pulls over this wacko who has like no lights in the back of his car.
I'm not going to rob this guy.
Ah.
Oh gosh, but my neighbor once told me a story of like this is how you should handle the police. He's an old white guy though, and he's telling me like what to do, because his son is also a policeman. He says, admit anything that you may have possibly done, and even try and go a little bit over, but the obsequiousness is the key to getting away from the police. It's like, what you need to do is actually go in there and volunteer information. They ask you, like, do you know why I pulled you over? And you'll say, yeah, I think that I was going maybe 70 miles an hour into 65 mile an hour. I'm sorry, I didn't expect. My mind was on my schedule, and I didn't even look down on my speedometer, and I really should have. And they're like, if you could see it in your heart, just let me go with a warning this today, the officer. I think that would be really wonderful, and you're doing a great job, and I know how hard it is. Thank you, and God bless America. And then, and most of the time, like 9 times out of 10, he gets away with it. He doesn't even have to flash the badge or anything. So
there's a good book called a Speeder's Guide to Avoiding Tickets.
Yeah.
That's all about stuff like that and things like that. And in general, if I am breaking the law actively, that's my strategy.
Yep.
And then if I'm not breaking the law, I'm not talking to you.
Yeah.
I don't consent to being searched. Like just like let's start off that way. Let's start off by you saying, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" and me saying, "I don't consent to being searched."
It's like, oh, he's one of these wise guys. Eh? It's like, oh, okay, is it?
So yeah, my demeanor changes, I guess, depending on what I'm doing and what I think I'm gonna be able to get away with.
Yeah,
but yeah, A Speeder's Guide to Avoiding Tickets, interesting book. Gets into like the psychology of it too, and basically what cops look for and how cops feel when they pull over cars and that sort of stuff.
All right. Oh gosh, we going to 10?
What time did we start?
I don't even remember. Do you know what time we started? You got a running time, right?
50 minutes ago.
50 minutes
50
ago?
minutes ago? So you want to fill 10 minutes and call it a segment?
Yeah.
All right, sounds good.
All right.
So you recently came back.
Yes. After I went from the Bay Area, I came back to Los Angeles, and so Gary Chartier, he was around, and I didn't get to see his wife, though. Like, his wife is real tired. She runs a different schedule, so she was never able to make it out to the times that we were hanging out. And what he did was he gave me a copy of his book.
Nice.
Yeah, so I got Conscience of an Anarchist there. I have going to read it, and so also when I was in Bay Area, I interviewed Anthony Gregory. So we went to a restaurant, really nice place. So you'll hear some restaurant talk there as well. And also Gary, we were at a restaurant, so you'll hear restaurant talk there as well. But it was a good time both places, and I got Gary to tell some stories about his past and about how things happened, and I think you'll all enjoy it. So you'll hear it, cut up and put together maybe next week, maybe week after.
Well, we can get them on, yeah.
Yeah, we'll get everybody on. Eventually, I'm going to try and get Christine Peterson. I wanted to see her while I was out there. Maybe Richard Body as well. Yeah, I met up with my friend Russell. Russell while I was in San Francisco, and I wanted to get him recorded because he's been everywhere, seen everything, done everything, and he's been around the libertarian movement for the last several years. I'm not gonna go into how old they may be.
His spot.
Yeah,
he's 97.
It's like no, but he was in the class with Murray Rothbard, and he went to the University of Las Vegas for a bit.
Okay.
He's a military veteran. He worked for Google. He's now in biotechnology. He's working for Immortality. He's an extropian. He's all types of amazing things.
What's an extropian?
Good question. Now look it up, dear.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right.
The extropian movement was a movement that came about. They were techno-optimists. So they're people who were very, very excited about the future and its possibilities, and the idea of the singularity came from, Werner Vinge, I think, was the guy who came up with the term. But really the popularizers were the extropian community. So these were the guys who pioneered internet movements and technology and libertarianism and all these amazing things. So they're pretty fancy people.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sounds that way.
Remember Perry?
Yeah.
Think Perry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I like that interview we did with Perry. I was explaining Perry to a friend.
Explaining the philosophy of Perry to a friend.
Yeah. I was talking about it. I wonder if his ears were burning, but I really liked that interview.
No, well, he I said the show's going to be on today, and so he asked about it. So hopefully one of these days he'll be able to come back on the show, because I want him to come in and I want him to do an entire day just talking Perry.
Well, we've got a lot of people who said they wanted to come back on. Perry said they wanted to come back on. Kinsella said he wanted to come
Yep.
back on. Anthony Gregory said he wanted to come back on.
Yeah, when Anthony comes over to the East, he's definitely going to try and do this. But hopefully, I'll be back in New York by the time it happens.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like. I don't know. There's a lot of cool people out there. So
Yeah,
there's a
we're
lot
going to
of
get
fun stuff
Hoppa
we can talk
on one
about.
of these days, too.
And then there's Hoppa.
And then there's Hoppa. That could be a show.
Speaking of which, my friend was he recently got all these it's called the Anarchist Broadside series, I think is the name of it.
Broadsides.
Yeah, but he recently bought all these pamphlets off Amazon because he wanted to read some more about it, and they sent him duplicates, and he handed them to me. He's like, here, they sent me some extras, so these copies are for you.
Okay.
And the back of them are like all these Stirner essays.
Oh, okay.
I was like, you're reading a lot of Max Stirner? And he's like, no, those are just the essays. I was like, oh, okay.
Okay.
All right, it's good to know.
I mean, what else is there other than the essays of Max Stirner?
What else are you gonna read?
It's like, well, I'm going to be reading. No, those are just essays of Max Stirner. I'm not reading Max Stirner, of course.
Yeah. So there's a it's interesting. Everybody that I've spoken to about this particular subject about anarchism, it seems most people are pretty interested.
They
which
are.
is good.
It's a pretty curiosity-inspiring name.
Yeah,
Anarchy? What are you talking about?
Yeah, once they learn that you're not gonna like plant a bomb in their car, they tend to be pretty cool.
It's like, I'm working a factory making very round bombs, and the idea is to make the roundest bomb you can.
For even disbursement of fragments.
Exactly. So we're going to cover it with hexagons. That's the future. Round, covered in hexagons.
It's funny. I've actually been because I teach forensic science, so we've been learning about explosives. Is the last thing that we were learning about. So you get to go through all those different types of bombs, from the very round with black powder inside it to what's going on nowadays and all these kinds of things.
So what's it like? High melting explosives like HMX or RDX and things like that.
Yeah. I mean, the interesting thing is people are so concerned about the availability of explosives. They'll be like, why should you possibly be able to buy black powder in a sporting goods store? That's insane. It's an explosive. And you're like, dude, at a lot of places you can just get RDX. And the reason you can get RDX is because we've done so many military ops there that we have left ammo dumps all over the place. I mean, we're still using up TNT from World War II.
Oh my god.
If you want to make it harder to get your hands on explosives, don't blow people up.
You're making too much sense here, dude.
Who uses explosives on the biggest scale? That would
Anarchists.
be it's not anarchists.
Amazingly enough, it's not anarchists. It's like the person with the bomb, the scary guy. No, it's not an anarchist. It's the statist. It's
oh boy.
But I've seen what do you call it? Back in the day, people used to be able to just go to the like a Sears or something and buy explosives. You could without any kind of license or any kind of special papers from the government saying you can own these, because you wanted to clear stumps that were in your yard or something. So you can buy an explosive cap, put it there, and blow up a stump. And anybody could do this. Even kids could go in there and buy the stuff. They usually wouldn't sell it to kids because, they kind of knew everybody. It's like, okay, I'm not going to sell it to Jim's kid over here. I'm going to sell it to Jim when he comes back in, or I'm going to ask him about it. Why is your kid trying to buy explosives? And it's how things were. Later on, things changed.
True. Well, I mean, you look at a lot of the highly dangerous explosives and things like that. They're what the normal person's going to use them for is so incredibly limited that it's like there's not really much of a reason for people to necessarily be purchasing these. So you'd figure if you had people selling these things, it'd be very easy for them to know their client base and know basically what their client base is doing. So
True.
I think it's the kind of thing that would be actually pretty darn easy to self-regulate.
Oh, well, localism.
Localism? Yes. Gonna get beat up for localism again?
Oh, local. The local yokels there. So I don't know. I mean, there's some good stuff about locals, some interesting bad stuff about localism as well.
When it comes to getting beat up about localism, I think one of the interesting discussions we had with Perry was the folk activism thing. That was kind of interesting. I'd like to get back on that topic sometime.
Yeah, that's they usually quote Patry about folk activism, and because Patry wrote a pretty definitive piece in Cato at Liberty. And it was a whole discussion topic that happened because every time you get one of the big thinkers and they write up a lead essay, then they have response essays, then they have response to the response essays.
Right.
Roderick did this a while back with whip conflation now when corporations hate the market, and so he gave a whole thing, and then there was more things back and forth. So this is what Pottery did, and all about folk activism and why it's not the best way to achieve liberty.
I think we need to reach out as a community to Pottery Friedman. Give him a big hug.
Everyone at the same time hug Pottery Friedman. If you find him somewhere and he's out with two girls at one time, one of them may be his wife, the other one may be a nice, cute girl that I met the other day, then, give him a hug.
All right. I think, are we up against it time-wise?
We are definitely up against the time.
All right.
All right, so what do we want to say in the last few seconds?
Well, first off, you've been listening to Thinking Liberty.
Yes.
ThinkingLiberty.net.
Yes.
A fine pre-recorded production.
It's usually a live production over here at ThinkingLiberty.net, and so we are reporting live from somewhere.
It's still live. We have listeners.
Oh, okay.
We do have listeners. And thank you, listeners, for listening, because we like you for listening, and listen more often.
We appreciate it, even though, we were late and we have all our issues that we normally have.
Yes.
And we're sans bombast.
We'll import some more bombast, and it will be fun.
All right. So, I guess that's the show.
I think that's a wrap.
What would Darian normally say at this point?
Darian says, go out and be free. And I would say, stay free. Always. With wings. All right, we're good.
You wouldn't steal a car. You wouldn't steal a handbag. And you definitely wouldn't take an orphan's gold teeth. So why do you insist on stealing people's mind fruit? Every time you implement something somebody has already thought of, you're stealing mind fruit. Every time you think of something that somebody's already thought of, you're stealing even more mind fruit. So please, check all your thoughts with the Department of Thoughts, and everything you create with the Department of Inventions, so we can help prevent this most egregious theft of a highly tangible item, mind fruit.